Good afternoon. Today we will talk about the ethical issues in collaborative research. My name is Daniela Elena Coste and I'm professor in tumor pathology at the University of Bergen in Norway. I hope that at the end of this session you would be able to recognize issues in collaborative research ethics. You would identify ethical issues in a team-based research. You will recognize ways of addressing conflicts of interest, and you'll be able to recognize international and cultural considerations in research. This session will be followed by a session by Ragnhild Dybdahl, who will take you even more deeper into the international and cultural considerations in research. This is the educational video, but we have a discussion forum online and we have some exercises and some reading material that I hope you will go through. So let's starting to recognize the ethics of collaborative research and when issues might occur in these settings. So what is collaborative research ethics? Most of the projects actually, they undergo under collaboration. So collaboration is essential for research, and we can have many different types of collaboration. We could have collaboration between different researchers and different research institutions. We could have cooperation between researchers and community or civil society organizations, different user groups. We will have cooperation between researchers and participants, between researchers and industry, between researchers and funders, or even between researchers and media. So very often the research partnership involves partners that are not equal in power, status, and resources, and issue might arise concerning exactly this point. So collaborative research ethics refers to the principles and guidelines that govern ethical conduct in research collaborations involving multiple individuals, organizations, or institutions. In the lecture today, and our module is mainly concerned with issues related with the cooperation between different researchers and research institutions. As mentioned already, challenges might appear when there are power differences and lack of equality between partners. So there are different codes that have been developed through extensive consultations, and they are available. And they are a very valuable resource for all stakeholders for development and implementation of equitable research partnerships. So this is the resource that it's mentioned at the end of this module. Another valuable resource is the Montreal Statement, which outlines principles to guide trustworthy research collaborations in order to enhance integrity in cross-national, cross-disciplinary, and cross-sector research. And here below is the link that you could follow to read this statement. Ethical issues are both a collective responsibility of collaborating partners, as well as it's an individual responsibility for all taking part into the research. That's why these principles of the Montreal Statement are very important, and everyone that performs collaborative research should be accustomed to them. So the key aspects that are mentioned there and that are essential for any collaborative research are respect for participants, transparency and accountability, equitable partnership, the management of conflict of interest, issues related to data sharing and ownerships, cultural sensitivity and inclusivity, community engagement and benefit sharing, and ethical review and oversight. And we will go through all of these key aspects. So we have to show respect for participants, and all collaborators must prioritize the welfare, dignity, and the rights of all the research participants. And this includes obtaining the informed consent that we have discussed for 2 modules now. We need to ensure confidentiality, and we need to protect vulnerable populations that we might include in our study. All collaborators should be transparent about their roles, responsibilities, and contributions to the research project. It has to be a clear communication and a clear documentation of agreements, protocols, and data sharing. And these, as we mentioned before, have to be mentioned in the informed consent if data sharing will take place. Equitable partnership is very important. So the collaborative research should be conducted in a manner that promotes fairness and equity among all partners. So this involves recognizing and valuing the diverse expertise, perspectives, and contributions of each collaborator regardless of their status or affiliation. So everyone should have equal access to all the data. There might appear conflict of interest, and then this has to be managed. And this is based on trust, because all collaborators should disclose any potential conflict of interest that could influence the research process or the outcomes. And this also goes towards the transparency, that key aspect, because this would ensure integrity and credibility of the research findings. About data sharing and ownership, very clear agreements regarding data sharing, ownership, and intellectual property rights should be established very early in the collaboration. Clarity on these issues help prevent disputes and ensures that research data are used responsibly for the benefit of the society and not for the own benefit of the individual researchers. About cultural sensitivity and inclusivity in cross-cultural or international collaborations, researchers must respect and accommodate cultural differences, norms, and practices. There might arise sensitivity to issues of power dynamics. There might occur language barriers, cultural biases, but these have to be openly discussed because they are very crucial for building trust and fostering inclusivity. A key aspect is also the community engagement and benefit sharing. So collaborative research should actively involve relevant stakeholders, including community members, policymakers, and inducers throughout the whole research process. It has to be an engagement of the community, and the research project might be slightly changed after interaction with the community and with their needs and their priorities. So that is very important to be discussed before the project actually is taking place. Ethical review and oversight, as we all mentioned, it's very important that the research involving human subjects and sensitive data should undergo ethical review by institutional review boards or ethical committees, because the project might be changed after this, and all collaborators are responsible for ensuring that their research activity comply with the ethical standards and regulatory requirements. For example, when I did collaborative research with Sudan or India or Tanzania or other countries, we had to apply our project to submit it to both the ethical committees here in Norway, but also in the countries I was collaborating with. And sometimes issues might occur because, for example, my institution has a template of informed consent and wants everyone to follow that. For example, our Tanzanian collaborators had their informed consent, and then we had to merge and reach a consensus for which informed consent to use an informed consent, for example, that takes into consideration the issues raised by both institutional review boards. So that is very essential. So this is about collaborative researchers and research institutions, but there are a lot of ethical issues that might occur when we do a team-based research that might be at the same institution. So we need to be aware about those issues as well. There are slightly different ethical issues in the team-based research. One of the most commonly issue that maybe many of you have been into is how do we credit the authorship and the credit for the work that has been done. Again, the informed consent is a key issue in this setting as well. Data management and sharing, the conflict of interest, the research integrity and misconduct, how do we address that in case it occurs? Again, the power dynamics and equity, the community engagement and stakeholder involvement, and the researcher well-being. So let's go through this. In terms of, well, when we talk about authorship and credit, disputes over authorship and credit allocation might occur. That's actually a pretty common issue that during a research career someone might incur. So it's very important to have clear understanding and agreements at the beginning of the project. However, this might change on the course of the project, but it's better to take it as soon as possible. So if one feels that has performed much more research and needs and wants more credibility and different location in the authorship list, that must come very early in the process. That might be and should be grounded on the contribution. Also, sometimes there are issues if the person should be in acknowledgement or in the authorship, and this has to be decided by the team, or what has been a substantial contribution and allows the person to be included as an author, what has been just help with one issue, and then the person should be in the acknowledgement. So as a measure to deal with this, it should be, as I mentioned, clear guidelines and criteria from the outset of the project. Things might change over the course of the project. That's why someone has to have regular discussions. There should everyone should follow the Vancouver rules for being included in the research, meaning that being authorship implies that the person has been contributed to the project planning and development, has been actively contributing to acquisition of data, has been also actively contributing to the writing and editing of the manuscript that goes for publication. So one has to ensure that every of the co-authors have participated to all these processes. If one person have been contributing just to one of these steps, then that person is not available, it is not eligible for the authorship, and it will be credited by being mentioned in the acknowledgements. Also, it's very important that these agreements are not only verbally agreed on, but they are also actually contracts that are signed on and that they are in written. About informed consent, if there are many team members, the principal investigator has to be sure that all the team members have been performing the research and collecting the data according to the rules, and they had informed consent. Usually the PI should collect all the informed consents and should check that all participants in the study have signed the informed consent, regardless of in which country that has been done, in which region, which partner has been done. So that's why the PI has to ensure that all the team members are aware of this, they have a training, and they know how to obtain the informed consent. They also should offer opportunities for all the participants to ask questions and seek clarification, and should regularly check for this if there is a new member in the team, someone quitting, or also if the project goes over several years, things might be forgotten, so the PI has to actually regularly check that the informed consent is collected. We have been through the data management and sharing in the previous module. Here, please remember the ethical considerations for data management. So very important that only the PI has access to the code that links the name and personal data of a person with the data that is used in the project and which is non-identified, and very advisable is to use encryption, not use personal laptops, use servers that belong to the institution, and servers for sensitive data that are providing safety measures to keep this data secure. Yeah. So this is the measures. We have been through that, but I want to stress once more that and maybe your ethical research committee doesn't require this, but it's good to have a data management plan that all the members of the team are aware of. As I mentioned, it's very essential that you implement a secure data storage, and you are sure that you protect the confidentiality and the integrity of the research data. You get approval for data sharing through informed consent for the participants, and also you have very clear data sharing agreements to clarify ownership. Actually, if you collect the data don't belong to you, they belong to the institution that you are affiliated to, and then the rules of that institution would apply for the data sharing, not your own. You cannot make your own agreements. Yes, we come to the conflict of interest. We have been through this, that different team members actually can belong to different associations or different companies, and then issues of conflict of interest might arise. You need to be very clear and to stress on this from the very beginning to all your collaborators that they should be transparent about this. They have to report to you any conflict of interest, any belonging to any or membership to any company or social group that might bring a conflict of interest. So as a practical measure, please require all team members to disclose their potential conflict of interest. This can be financial, professional relationships, or professional affiliations that might bias or influence the research. Please establish procedures for reviewing and managing conflict of interest, such as, for example, decision-making process for the appointment of independent reviewers. And you need to actually monitor and periodically release the potential conflict of interest because circumstances might change over time. And this is, as we discussed, the same with the agreements for the authorship that might change over time. About research integrity and misconduct, the PIs and you as a research fellow, you need to prevent at all times the research misconduct such as plagiarism, fabrication, falsification, or selective reporting of research results. And we have been through this in the previous module, but it's such an important issue that we have to take it here also in the team-based research, because you might have a team member that is very eager to get the research, the results that they are hypothesizing about. So please be sure that there is transparency, honesty, and accountability in the research practices. So you need to provide training, and you need to be sure that all your collaborators and all your team is aware with the research ethics principles, that they are responsible and they have a good scientific practice. You need to foster a culture of integrity, transparency, and open communication. You need to have a procedure for reporting misconduct, including plagiarism, fabrication, and falsification. And this is a sensitive issue. How to do it? You can decide if you could have an online reporting system or physical box in which persons could make remarks. But anyway, you have to encourage the collaboration, and you have to take attitude in the case of a misconduct reported. Very important for you is to recognize and to address if you see some power dynamics imbalance within research, within your research group. There might be unequal distribution of resources, decision-making authority, or opportunity for participation, particularly interdisciplinary or international collaborators. So you need to take measures. You need to lay down a culture of inclusiveness and respectful research. You need to promote transparency and fairness in decision making. You need to provide mentorship, support, and professional development, particularly for the younger participants. And you need to encourage regular feedback and reflection over power dynamics, and also openly discuss the strategy of mitigation if such issues occur. There is also issues regarding to the community engagement and stakeholder involvement. You need to really discuss this openly. There might be ethical issues that might arise if the community perspectives, concerns, and priorities are disregarded. So you need to really have a constant dialogue with the community in which you perform your research. So as a measure is, as I mentioned, include relevant stakeholders and the community members, the policy makers, and you need to be very open about your research. You need to be active listening and to have a dialogue with them. You need to implement active mechanisms of feedback, consultation, and co-creation of research objectives. You might need to change over time your research objectives or methods or how you collect your data, but you really have to do this in order to, you need to ensure equitable distribution of benefits and outcomes from the research to the communities and the stakeholders involved. And also you need to include opportunities for capacity building and knowledge exchange, because you generate knowledge and you need to exchange this. It's very important to also take care of your team. So at the same time, you take care of the community and the participants, but your team is as well very important. So there might be ethical issues, particularly if you have a bigger team, that people might feel that you don't provide equal mentorship, support, and work life. You really have to take measures to prioritize the well-being of your team members. You need to be open about it, and you need to provide counseling and mentorship. You need to foster a culture of collaboration and mutual respect, and to appreciate the diverse skills that your different team members bring to your team. You need to encourage open communication, and the culture team is really essential for good research and for productive research. It's enough to have a person that is not happy and brings negative vibes to your research team. So please pay attention to the environment that you are building and the culture of your research team. The conflict of interest is a very important theme in your research. So that's why we have a little, I would like to stress on this aspect. So really it's very important to stress that all the members of your team, and also if you collaborate internationally or between institutions, that all the members they disclosure and they are transparent about their conflicts of interest. You have to have a constant evaluation and review, and if such conflicts of interest occur, you need to be prepared that you have to perform a mitigation and management of the conflict of interest. You need to go thorough and be transparent about them and document all the conflicts of interest. If yourself you are not able to manage the conflict of interest, that's why there are ethical boards that you could address this issue to, and they actually have the obligation to help you with these issues. So they might also help, and you need to do training and education of your team, that your team is aware about the conflicts of interest. And please be aware that you don't do it just at the beginning of your research project, but you do a continuous monitoring and a continuous review to be sure that all the members of your team and all your collaborators are reporting the conflicts of interest. Very brief about international and cultural considerations, because Ragnhild will talk more extensive about this. Please be aware of the cultural sensitivity, about the language barriers and the communication. You need sometimes to hire translators. The best is if you could identify persons that can be part of your research team and both do research and translate. But sometimes we need translators, but then you have to also educate them when they receive different answers from the participants, that they don't convey any positive or negative feedback, that they are neutral. Be aware that there might be ethical and regulatory differences in different areas you perform the research. Definitely you will encounter some power dynamics and equity issues. But you need to constantly talk to the community. You need to try to involve and engage the community. You need to have a cultural competence and training, so you don't just go into an area without knowing anything about their cultural traditions and their cultural ethics. So be aware for data collection and analysis what it is acceptable for the community, and that it is within the cultural frames of their community. And that's why you should submit your project to the local or institutional review board that is aware about these issues and have an oversight over it. So in summary, I hope that at the end of this module, you now know what the collaborative research ethics is and what are the key principles, what are the ethical issues in the team-based research, the issues related with the conflict of interest, the issues related with the authorship, and also that you are sensitized to the international and cultural considerations in the research, but this you will take them further with Ragnhild. We have a case for discussion that is online, and I encourage you please to go there and leave me some thoughts about it, but we will also discuss it on the session on Tuesday. So thank you very much for your attention.